know nobody's in here yet, but this is me saying this for the sake of future persons clicking on this live stream. Today we're working on the warscythe that you probably guessed we're working on based on the title. So far, we got it all assembled. In the last stream, we got it all prettied up, got the socket, got the tang glued in place, got the socket pinned and glued in place, got the handle decorative bits done, at least done to the point where I was ready to stop. Today we're going to try and tackle this beast and hopefully get it finished with leather work, with some twine work, with all kinds of stuff. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty interesting day today. First thing we're going to do is some leather work. I have a leather round-ish piece. It's a little larger than it needs to be, so it overhangs a little bit because I'm going to twine wrap after I nail and glue this in place. And then I have 3 other pieces of leather which are going to cover where the tang goes into the wood, so it'll emerge from leather rather than being able to see where the tang goes into the wood. Just help protect the wood in here in the socket from moisture, help protect it from getting water or anything down in there when it's in the elements, when it's cutting, when it's being used essentially. So we're going to basically cover that section in there with leather after we do the butt piece, and we'll epoxy those in place. Then we can move on to the twine work, we can move on to embellishing the pattern in the handle a little bit more. So the pattern that we have, see if I can get the lighting good enough for it. Maybe if we angle down. Yeah, there we go. So you can see we've got a carved in, wood burned in pattern that runs through there for grip and for telling you where the edge of this blade is, no matter where on the pole you're gripping. It does run down the entirety of the shaft. So I'm thinking I might fill some of these with colored epoxy just for beautification purposes. I may decide against it, but first we got to do the leather work bits, so let's go ahead and get started on that. Whoa, jiggly jiggly. So first thing I got to do is mix up some resin real fast, because we are going to, like I said, epoxy these together as well, just because the epoxy is going to help hold it together strongly and keep it in place. And since these are essentially water seal gaskets of a kind to protect the wood from getting moisture in the end grain, I mean, epoxy resin is a great choice. Back in the old days, they would have used tar or pitch or something of that nature to seal it and act as a glue, but I don't have the time to go tap a tree to get sap. How's it going, Single X Gaming? Hey, bro. Hello, I don't know how to pronounce that. Hi. Where am I from? Utah. Living in Utah, living in America. Like the song says, living in America. Something like that, right? But we're just using some JB Weld 2-part clear weld epoxy. It's a fast setting epoxy, so it gels in 5 minutes and hardens in an hour. So we should be able to work with this in a short amount of time. Once it starts to gel, as long as you don't bump stuff around too much, it tends to stay in position. So we won't have to wait for the full hour after we glue this stuff on to work with it. We'll only have to wait for a few 20 minutes or so while I just chit-chat with you guys. Let's see. Great. How about you? Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. It's my day off today, so I'm relaxing, chilling, having fun. What do I do for a living? Excavation, construction, landscaping, and blacksmithing. A mixed bag. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. For those who weren't here a minute ago, this is the scythe in question, the warscythe in question that we're working on. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is a fun thing. Nice and lightweight for its size. It's about 4.5, 5 feet, somewhere in there. I haven't quite measured it yet. Live in Japan and don't understand much English, and I'm curious to see what you'll do next. So it's going to be very fun for you. Holy moly. What he do next? What he do next is stick some leather on after I finish mixing this crap. If you guys would do me a huge, huge favor and hit that like button on the live or the thumbs up or whatever the hell it is, just helps people see this live more. Quick question, would you rather watch a tree grow or a knee grow? A knee grow or a tree grow? Oh, I see, you're trying to catch me in a slur of words. Depends on how fast the knee is growing, and depends on what kind of tree it is. Gotcha. Yeah, you got me. You got me. Luckily, I ain't one of them easily offended types. Yeah, I need to get. Where's my mods at? I have a couple mods, but they're not in right now because I forgot to let them know I was streaming. They usually check for shit like that for me, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. Just don't want to get guidelines violated because the world is full of soft people nowadays that can't take a joke and don't understand what a joke is. What kind of tools do I have? Blacksmithing and bladesmithing tools, my friend. I do not have the most expensive tools. I do not have the prettiest tools. What I do have is the necessary tools, which I would rather take over pretty tools any day. I'm not really much of a brand, I guess brand, what would you call it? Brand supremacist. I seem to have slightly bent my pin. That's okay. Bend it back real quick, and then tap it the rest of the way in. Oh, that's not going to work. We're going to need a different pin. Because that pin is just too bent. Maybe. 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 I should have pre-drilled it, because this is so thin. But I've never been known to do things the easy way. Yeah, we're going to just use a different pin. Screw that. We'll pre-drill and use a different pin. Ha, and they work. Yes. How many things have I made? Hundreds, if not thousands at this point. Everything on that wall is my creation, except for the flag. Made this treadle hammer. There's videos going up about this thing on my channel at the moment. Made all kinds of stuff. Made a lot of tools that I have over here. Where's my baby? Where did I put her? Oh, wrong shelf, that's why. Made some forging hammers. Some real pretty forging hammers. All kinds of tools. Tools, weapons, swords, knives, polearms. Yeah. This is one of my favorites. This is my personal sword. Oh crap, I let that harden because you guys distracted me. Look at that. That epoxy's ruined. What a waste. Oh, y'all distract me too easily. Come on, guys. Resin is not cheap. Like 20 bucks for those bottles. Distracting. It's okay. I have more. Okay, and I'm going to be smart now, and I'm going to pre-drill this. And we're going to use a brass pin instead, the brass pins we have up there. They're a little more stout, too. So that's always a good thing. Perfect. That'll fit perfectly. Now we just have to convince it through the leather. There we go. Perfect. That'll fit just so. Cool. Problem resolved. I am going to just go ahead real quick and just kind of upset the head on this pin a little bit, just so the head is bigger. There we go. Now we've got a head on our pin. Much better. Yep. Cool. And just a couple taps. Yep, and that'll seat nicely. Just get some resin on it. Cool. Mix up another batch of resin real quick. Should be plenty for my purpose right now. Stir this up real quick. And we'll just coat the leather on the side that is going to face the wood to get a nice bond between the leather and the wood all the way across, because as I said, this is to protect the haft from water. We're also going to get a little bit in the pinhole where our pin's going to seat, just to make sure that once it's seated, it never comes out, because that pin's going to lock this leather in place. The resin will as well, but this pin is going to help secure it, let's say. Remove some of the excess resin. And we're going to leave all the overhang that we get here, because we can do two things with it later, and you guys will see that when we get there. We have two options about how to address the overhang. And now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to actually put it in the vise, so we don't end up setting it down on that while that dries. Then we're going to take our other three little pieces of leather and a little bit of epoxy and affix them to the top of our socket. Wipe off the excess and kind of spread the bit that the leather is going to come in contact with. I'm also making sure that anywhere between the wood and the jacket, the copper jacket, I'm also backfilling with resin in case there are any spots that didn't get filled when we attached it. Which it doesn't look like there are, but you can never be too careful. Now we're going to take our pieces of leather, and I'll show you guys this up close once I'm done getting these on here. What this is. I just need to get this done in a timely manner. sure I wipe excess away from the blade. Just a hair more right here inside of that junction, because we want to make sure everything seals tightly. This is essentially a water gasket for our socket to keep moisture out, so that way we can protect the wood that is going to be taking the most abuse, which is the bit that the tang is set inside of. I'm also going to take just a couple drops of epoxy and put it on the outside of the leather and spread that around so it seals from the top and the bottom and acts as a true gasket. So that way the intersections between all these little bits of leather aren't just gapped, they're coated from the top and bottom. That way there is no way for them to let moisture through. If there's no way to let moisture through, then it's doing its job correctly. The last thing you want is a gasket to fail and let water in, because then it'll rot the part of the shaft that takes the most abuse in use, and your shaft will just snap, or your tang will break out, or you'll get cracks, or all kinds of bad stuff can happen if moisture gets in there. So this is a very, very important step to get correct. And I'm just kind of continuing to brush things down as it hardens up here. But now it's starting to get to the point of hardness where I don't want to mess with it too much, or else it's going to start getting really stringy. Go back and check on this bottom guy, push it back up against it just to make sure it doesn't get loose when it's hardening in any of the spots. We don't want any air gaps. Okay, now I can just kind of leave this as is. Let it start to harden up a little bit. Falta Falks. Hi. Hey, Caden! How you doing, bro? Working on the warscythe again. Doing some leather gaskets. So this is what I was talking about, and this is what I was working on, is making a gasket that runs around the blade of leather and sealing that with resin all the way around. That way moisture can't get into the socket and under the copper jacket. That way it's protected from moisture on the blade end and just kind of seals where the tang sits, and it's going to make that a lot longer lasting because you can't get moisture down in there to screw it up. And we did one on the bottom as well that's got some overhang, and that's going to be keeping the end grain from getting moisture in it on the bottom of the haft as well. So, how's everybody doing today? Everybody having a good old time, hanging out, just chilling? What are you guys doing this weekend? Let's get nice and solid. Cool. Yep, so is that. Cool. Okay, here in just a couple minutes we'll be able to start working on the twine portion of the build. Nursing a hangover. Oh, bro, that's no fun. That's no fun at all. That's gotta suck. Hangovers suck. I guess you could say you're part of Hangover Gang. Tom McDonald would be proud. But yeah, this is... Let me get some lighting on here. Goodness gracious, there we go. There's our pattern on our scythe blade. And there's the pattern in the handle. Which, after we get these bits hardened up and get the twine wrap, we're actually going to take some colored epoxy and we're going to try to fill all the grooves with colored epoxy to try and get like an inset resin type of look in this handle, which should be pretty cool. Give it a little bit more life and some spirit, let's say, because it's going to have color to the handle. Oh yes, oh yes. If once I get it finished up, when we make it up there, if it hasn't sold before I go, I'll bring it up with me, and we can go and slash some pumpkins or something with it. Because I always cut like jugs and stuff for testing, as you've probably seen by now. But yeah, this is going to be a fun thing to cut stuff with, because it's got such a long lever to it. You can really snap that blade around. Get a lot of speed behind that edge. And since it's so light, it moves very, very quickly. Yeah, this thing's still got quite a ways to go before it's done, but it's making progress at a good rate. Next step is a jute / sassel twine, couple of wraps. And these are going to be on both ends. They're not going to cover the whole socket up here. It's only going to cover from about that bottom pin to about here. And then on this bottom end, we're going to use it to basically cover off the edges of that leather on the bottom end that we just placed in. Then this is going to get some resin seal to it as well. I've done these before on video, but if you guys haven't been here to understand how this works, you find both your ends, you match both your ends up, and then you put it around your workpiece from the center, where you want to start the wrap. Then, on whichever side you want your wrapping on, I need to center this a little more. There we go. I'll get you guys closer before I explain this. Why you gotta get a hangover, bro? I thought you was a professional. I thought you was a professional at drinking, brother. Professional ain't gonna get hangovers. They gonna get hang-unders. I don't know. I'm just BSing. Okay. Let's not fall onto the edge of our warscythe, because sharp things in the face don't feel good. But basically, we come up where we want to start our wrap, and you simply just do a basic overhand knot. Just the very simple basic overhand. Then you cross back over to the other side, and I bet you can probably guess what I'm about to do. Another overhand? Yeah, you were right. Do the other overhand. And you just slowly stack overhand knots under each other keeping it nice and tight pretty much the whole time. And this is going to act to reinforce the joint between the wood and the socket. You're reinforcing the base of the socket, which doesn't really need it because it's cold forged to shape after being annealed. So it wants to hold that shape. It wants to hold that circular shape tight to the wood, because all the stresses pull it tighter. And it is pinned with brass pins. So it's a copper jacket with brass pins. So it's not going to be like this, like steel pins where it'll tear out the copper. The copper will kind of bite the brass pins, and the brass will kind of like bend into the copper. So it's much harder to snap these pins and get them to come loose. Because if the socket does move at all, the pins will move to kind of counter it and lock it in place. Mind you, it is also epoxied in place, so it's not exactly going anywhere anytime soon. And this is what I'm doing here. There is some utility to it, but since this is already so strong of a design, it's not really a risk of breaking that I'm concerned about here. I'm mainly just doing this for aesthetic purposes, because it will look much better from the top end, from the user end looking up the shaft, if this transition here is wrapped, because this transition between the socket and the wood, you can see not a gap, but you can see where they touch. And I don't really like that. I want the whole piece to flow as one piece, right? Like, I want this whole thing to be basically one continuous flowing movement to the eyes. I don't want there to be distinctive stopping points, if that makes sense, when you look at it, places that your eyes get caught. People have told me that this requires great patience, and I have told them that this requires great stubbornness. There is a difference. Patience is while you simply wait for something. Stubbornness is the will to fight when it keeps fighting back. Because these types of wraps never exactly turn out the way you want them to, unless you put in a little bit extra effort. The best way I can say this is if your fingers aren't sore or you don't have raw spots on your fingers, by the time you're done doing this, you're not pulling it tight enough. You're not doing it well. You're leaving too many loose spots. One thing that's good about this twine is it provides a lot of friction. So when you tie your knots, if you get them tight enough, it'll kind of lock itself against each other, each side of it. And every once in a while you'll want to kind of pull all your knots up into each other and then retighten your base knot before continuing, just to ensure you're not creating any accidental gaps in your weave. Because as you tighten it down and as you wrap it and as you tighten it down and wrap it, stuff kind of will shift around because of the pressures. Oh, 44 people and only 6 likes. That's atrocious. Come on, guys. There's a thumbs up button right there. I'm wrapping these and burning up my hands and tearing up my hands, and y'all can't even move your finger to click a button? Really? Really? Hey, there's a like. That's 7. That's better. I'll take 7. I'm just kidding. You don't have to hit the... Oh, 8? Oh, hell yeah. You guys don't actually have to hit the button. Like, you don't gotta hit the button if you wanna. Okay? Hello? You liked it? Caden! Caden did it. He did it. See? If Caden does it, it's cool, right? So y'all gotta do it too. Because if you wanna hang out with the cool kids, you gotta do like Caden does. Peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure. Like button, like button, like button, like button. Maybe if I do like subliminals, just like button, like button, like button. Peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure. AT, what's up, bro? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. I am working on the warscythe once again, my good man. Working on a twine wrap on this bad boy. Okay, now that we've reached the end of one side, because I didn't measure it perfectly evenly, because that happens, I'm gonna tighten up these knots and tie 2 overhand knots instead of 1. Tell me that trying... One sec. One sec. I can't read that from here. Ah, crap. I got distracted and then I messed up my knot. It's loose at the end. Gotta retie it. It's okay. A little shorter will actually look a little better. Ah, crap. This is just not good luck today, Zach. Blue, out of the shop. Good boy. Knows he's not supposed to be in here. He just wants attention and love. There we go. Got it nice and tight. TNT. Oh, the train. Got you. Yeah. That train gets loud as fuck, bro. Okay, so now that we've got our little twine wrap here, we're going to burn off all these strings. And then we will resin bond that. So that way this is not just individual strands, but it is solid. It's one piece pitched and glued together. Go, girl. Get out. Go on, puppy. Go on. I'm watching Clam Chowder from Clam Chowder Gaming's puppy right now. He just got a puppy, and she's hanging out with me. A little more. Okay, so by doing a burn like this, two things happen. It burns off all of those little bits, right? As well as changing the color. But it also dries out the twine. It gets all the moisture out of the twine, which means when I put the resin on here, it'll soak in even that much more. Because what I want to happen is I want it to soak deep into the twine and through the twine to seal up this whole thing. Essentially, if this is a gasket for the top of the socket, think about this as a gasket for the bottom of the socket. This is overlapped, so it's really hard for moisture to back travel through that channel right there, where the seam of the socket is. So this moisture seal that we have created on both ends is going to keep this section about here from getting moisture in it. Since the tang runs through to about here where the bottom of the socket is, we don't want moisture anywhere near where that tang sits, because if it does, it can rust our tang, it can rot our wood and weaken our wood, which means that inside of that socket the wood can crack, making the tang unstable, which is just a nightmare. You don't want any of that. So you seal both ends and your socket remains waterproof. The more you know. So before we resin this one and bond this one together, we're going to flip over to the other side and we're going to finish the other side with a wrap as well. Thank you for the like, whoever that was. I appreciate you. First things first, we're going to just go ahead and trim the excess, because we don't need the excess. And this can be done with a simple pair of scissors. All you're really doing is running around the outside edge, chasing the edge of the wood with the inside edge of the scissors, which will give you a nice clean cut all the way around, even with the base of the wood. Feel free to trim any of the little bits of rag off, even though you don't really have to, because the rag will be hidden by your twine wrap. But if you're going to do it, you might as well take the extra time and give it just that little bit more attention. So, now that we have that trimmed, we can wrap this side as well. Let's get us a piece of twine out and start wrapping. Find the ends, find the ends. And with this, we're going to start our wrap actually right behind it, so we can have a place to tie into, so to speak, for the bottom. Kind of think of it as a definitive stopping point. See, this is where it gets kind of tricky, is when you're on the end of something and you're trying to hide a lip with twine. We're trying to wrap over a lip, I should say, because you're not really trying to hide it doing this. You're just trying to catch it, so to speak, with the end of your wrap, which is where things get tricky, because you only have about a 16th or a 32nd to actually wrap onto. So it's very easy to make that slip off on accident. But if you do it right, it is possible. It's just stubborn. It's just tricky to get exact, let's say. I am a very big lover of the twine wrap aesthetic, so that's why I do it so often. Wait, Cotton Eye Joe, I've been there since a long time ago. Where'd age come from? Where'd age go? Where'd age come from? Cotton Eye Joe. Where'd age come from? Where'd age come from? Cotton Eye Joe. Hello, hello, how you doing? Good to see another person in the chat box. Mr. Caden, are you still there? Because if you're still there, I will totally make you a mod. Because I could use a mod. Apparently not. Hello, Robert. What are you making? Just showed up. A warscythe. I am doing some finishing details, some fine touches, so to speak. Right now we're working on some twine. We just did a little bit of leather work. After we do the twine, we're going to do some more epoxy sealing on the twine itself. Then we are going to do some resin, colored resin inlays in the pole here to make it pretty. Hello, hello, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. I hope you catch a fish. I hope you have some fun. Absolutely. Absolutely, positively, everybody. Here in a sec, I'll be done with this wrap, and I can show everybody who just showed up what the blade end looks like. Everybody who's already here is like, oh my god, he does this every like 10 minutes to show everybody that shows up. Of course, everybody deserves to see what's going on here. I'm not going to be a jerk. Be like, you weren't here at the beginning, so you don't get to see it. Nah, only Mr. Beast does that shit. That's some I have a million subscribers and don't pay attention to my audience shit. I pay attention to my audience. Because you guys are humans just like me. At least I'm pretty sure you guys are human. There might be some aliens out there watching. But if so, they must fear the human spirit. If they invade us, we will destroy them. With fancy medieval weapons. Made by yours truly. Y'all seen that one about the aliens invading and touching the boats? There's been too many countries making the mistake of touching the boats lately. I think I might do a twine wrap in the middle too, just for aesthetic purposes. I'm going to think on that for a second. I can always put one on and then look at it and see if I like it. If not, I can just cut it off. So there is that option. Fire, fire, fire. So, here is the business end of this weapon. Still got some resin on the blade that I need to clean up, but that's okay. It's got a really cool pattern that runs up there, up the spine. Then we're still gonna pretty up the socket there as well. That's copper with brass pins and a leather top seal and a bottom seal that's going to get epoxy bonded, just like that one is going to get epoxy bonded with the brass tack, which I need to tap a little bit more down. There we go. Just had a little rag on it that I forgot to tap down. Thank you, thank you. If you want to see how it was made, I have the entire start to finish series on live stream. You can kind of skip through the live streams to see the different stages of production. But yeah, it's a pretty cool blade so far. Still got a ways to go yet. But I've decided on putting a wrap on the middle of the haft as well, just for aesthetic purposes. Because why not, right? If we're going to make this look cool, we might as well go all the way with the cool and go with maximum coolage. Where's my tape measures? There they are. So we have got, in between wraps, 41 inches. So 20 and a half would be center. So we'll go from 20 to 22 and do a 2-inch wrap. Might go from 19 and a half to 22 and a half. Get a 3-inch wrap in the center. Something like that. Marker and action. Where's the markers? There they are. Yep, good for the second hand. It's also, the wrap in the center is also good for dictating slides, because typically with something like a warscythe, the upper half is going to be where your top hand is, and the lower half is going to be where your bottom hand is. That way you have a clear, easy marker of where the center of the haft is for when you're wielding it, so you never really have to worry about if your grip goes too far back or too far forward. You know exactly where you want to be on the haft. As long as you're in between the wraps, you're in wielding territory. So let's get our marks made again. Got 19 and a half to 22 and a half. Okay. Sounds good. Ba-ding. One of the blacksmith guild guys just getting a hold of me, trying to chit chat and whatnot. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna go grab a drink and I'll be right back to make that wrap. Coffee. Well, it's more than just a hobby. Gotta go, glad to see it's coming along. I'll see you, man. I'll see you, AT. Pop in later, bro, to my channel. There'll be a testing video of the scythe going up either tonight or tomorrow. Well, actually, no, I lied, because it gotta get scheduled out. Never mind. Don't listen to me. I'll see you in the next one, brother. Actually, we're going to do this wrap a little different than the other ones, so it doesn't take up as much time. We're going to do a rat tail style wrap, so we can hide our knot on this one. Oh my goodness. I gave myself way too much twine. Now it's starting to get all freaking wrapped up on itself. There we go. Damn it. Okay, yep, we're going to cut this shorter, because we do not need this much, and it's just freaking causing problems. And my markers wore off. Somehow I got a knot in the twine itself, but luckily I can get that undone, hopefully, without screwing up the rest of my wrap. There we go. Okay, so now that we've reached the end, we're going to tuck our string here through the loop, and then we're going to grab this string and pull that loop down inside until it snaps off, like that. And then we can go ahead and tie this guy off on this side just for some extra security. We don't need this, but it's always good to have. Okay, and then we can just cut that tag end off and give it a burn. If there's pesky little loose guy at the bottom here, you can always pick up the strand underneath it in the stack and just kind of flip it over it. And burn off any evidence. Oh, well that sucks. Looks like we burnt through our cord. That'll happen sometimes. Just means we need to redo the wrap. It's no big deal. It can be kind of frustrating sometimes when stuff like that happens, but just don't let it get to you. We'll just redo the wrap. Happens. How's it going, Peter? I have the same toolbox. I love it. Easy to move around in the shop floor. Yeah, I use it for my forge, so it doesn't move around a lot, and the drawers are pretty broken on it because I got it secondhand for cheap. By cheap, I mean free. So there is that. We're just going to redo the wrap. Like I said, stuff happens. Don't dwell on it too hard. Don't let it eat you up. It's all part of the process. The day you stop learning is the day you stop progressing. The day you let failure scare you is the day you fail to learn. Failure isn't something to be scared of. Failure is how we learn lessons. They should put one of the warscythe in COD. Yeah, it's on casters. Yeah, they should, dude. This would be an awesome melee weapon to have in Call of Duty. They need to find a way to stop making it take up my entire PC's freaking hard drive, because every time I go to play it, it crashes. Maybe it's my graphics card, but it crashes and then it says that the entire file is corrupt, so I have to delete it and re-download it, which takes like an entire day on my PC. It's just nuts. They need to fix their shit. And I think I'm going to go with a shorter wrap than what I had planned before, because this is just for distinguishing top from bottom. Okay, back through the loop, hold it out through the loop, and pull through the bottom. There we go. Scrunch that all tight. Yeah, I think that inch and a half should actually be more than sufficient for my purposes. I have a toolbox that gets sent out to different job sites across the US and Canada, but I like my Husky toolbox for my home shop. Yeah, I'm gonna be replacing that forge and probably that toolbox with a different base soon. Okay, so back you guys up a hair. So the next step is going to be to resin bond all of our lovely wraps. So now that we've got the top, center, well, bottom, center, and top wrapped, there we go. Try and get it all in camera. There we go. Now that we've got it all wrapped, we can resin bond those wraps to make those into solid seals. So that way the warscythe is got the aesthetics to it that we want. Because that's our base grip right there, bottom and bottom. That's our mid grip, and then that's our high grip, top and top. So it gives you an even spacing for leveraging the weapon around without compromising your ability to wield it. It gives you nice places to, feel around on the haft, so to speak. But yeah, it'll also keep water out of the end joints, and that little bit will be waterproof too in the center of the wood. I mean, most of it's going to be pretty water resistant because we have burned the whole surface and oiled it, but you can never go overboard with water protection on old weapons like this. So now we'll mix up some resin and we'll get the resin all over these wraps so they can harden up. Who is texting me? Get some resin mixed up so we can glue these wraps. And you don't need a crap load for each wrap. You just need enough to soak the fibers. Because even if the fibers don't bond to the wood through the whole way, as long as they bond on the ends and the fibers bond to each other to form a cohesive surface, water can't get through. This isn't, the glue is not intended to stop the wraps from coming undone, but it will. It's just a bonus of having it. It'll stop the wraps from coming undone. It'll keep everything nice. Get some gloves on real quick so I can handle this without getting super duper messy. That way I can take the gloves off after I'm done. I should fight, because I do. So I should 1v1 you, bro. You want to 1v1 me, snipers only? Yep, all I'm doing now is just coating the fibers in resin. Just getting enough on here to seal it. When you're doing this, just take your time. Some fibers will stick up and come loose. That's okay. We'll deal with all the porcupines in a minute. For now, just worry about getting a good bond between all your fibers. That's the most important, is getting this to soak through and bond all your ropes together as one. As long as we get that accomplished, then we're sailing right along, golden. And I'm going to just wipe any excess resin I have onto this haft to seal it as well. It's also going to give us a nice high gloss finish on the wood here. But there's a reason I'm doing this beyond just sealing. And I'll show you guys in a minute what that is. Don't want to fill these holes up yet though. So we have already oiled and burnt the surface of this haft. But there's no such thing as over-sealing wood, as long as it doesn't make it look like crap. Which, resin bonding the wood actually gives you a nice gloss finish and lets you see everything about that grain structure so cleanly. And I just tore my glove wide open. You should get an arbor press. It saves you a lot of time. I'm sorry, I meant to say get an arbor press. It will save you time. Cool, cool, cool. How's my day been? Good, good, good. Instead of a bottle jack. Yeah, I'm going to actually change that to air ran jack. So that way I can use pneumatic pressure to bring it up and down fast. Because that's a hand crank jack. And as anybody who's used one of those knows, it's not fast. Not at all. So doing this process is going to take a sec because we have to let it harden on the wood all the way down, or else we'll end up with not very glossy finish. And not very glossy finish looks like crap, whereas glossy finish looks beautiful. So we want glossy finish, not very glossy finish. So this is going to seal the haft. Oh. So you can kind of see on camera the sheen that it picked up from that versus the not sheen on the other side. So this is going to look really pretty when it's finished. But let me get some more gloves on, mix up a little more resin, get these other two done, and get this part of the wood sealed as well. Actually, we'll use that same cup. Just have to act fast. Just a little more. Yes, indeed. All right, well, you have a good rest of your day. It was nice having you in, Peter. It's good to see you. Okay, we just need a little more resin for this section of wood in the vise and the bottom side of this guy. So we need to let that seal up a little longer on that upper half, so that way we don't end up messing up any of the stuff we've already resin bonded. You too, man. Take care. So, in order to not screw stuff up, we're going to need to put it in the vise in a very weird way. But that's okay. Should hold well enough for long enough, hopefully, for us to get some on here. What it is? How you doing, man? Working on a warscythe. Working on a warscythe. Fix my hair. Mandy, English bill. Make an English. Oh, English bill hook. What's wrong with my hair? I don't particularly care how I look. People get way too caught up on appearances anymore. As if appearances ever mattered. In my opinion, the day people stop caring about what other people think of them is the day that people start finding peace. Oh, back here? Yeah, my pops cut that. Yeah, my dad's trying to get back to living life after having a double lung transplant, so I let him do my hair. Because he used to give me haircuts when I was a kid, so I let him do it, just for shits and giggles. He slipped a little bit. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You agree with me, but I'm making content? Have you ever heard of Michael Cthulhu? Dude's huge online. He never gave a single shit about what he looked like. I don't think anybody else should either. If you have to change who you are or how you are to get views, you're doing it wrong. Should be yourself regardless. And if that means getting less views, if that means less people buying from your store, accept it. It's better to be yourself than to sell out and be something you're not. Oh, for sure. For sure. No worries, man. If I come off as crass or abrasive, I'm not trying to be. I'm just done MMA and martial arts my whole life, and people tell me I have a very abrasive attitude. As long as Lila doesn't show up on camera. Nah, she's inside. She's inside with my wife right now. My wife's cooking and she's got her in there with her and the other dogs. Okay. So now our gloss is starting to gloss. And our epoxy is starting to harden in our wraps. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a bill hook. I've been thinking about doing a bill hook for a while. But yeah, so far this is where we're at. I'm thinking about taking some resin and filling in some of these holes in the pattern with some colored resin, just to make the pattern in the handle pop a little more. I feel like that could be cool. But for the moment, I'm just going to stick this in the vise and let it harden up the rest of the way. And then we'll trim off all the porcupines after that. There's just a tiny bit of excess overhang here. So I'm going to get rid of that. Throw just a teeny bit more resin in there and on there. Cover up where I cut. That way it's not visual where I cut. I'm doing a lot of finish work to it. A lot. I was thinking about taking a timber chisel with a socket to make a spear. That could be cool. That could be cool. That way you don't have to forge the socket. You already have the socket pre-made. This was a tanged and jacketed construction, whereas I could have done a socket, but I decided tanged and jacketed would make it look like the blade is just growing out of the haft with the pattern I'm doing. So I kind of just went with that. Figured it would look really cool. Just gotta let this all bond for a few minutes before I touch it. Hi from Iran. Hello. Hello from Iran. Hello from America. The Tang construction is an old... Yep. Yeah, the Tang construction is an old school way. Yeah. And since warscythes are really old school, I figured I'd go with a tanged warscythe rather than a socketed one, just to fit that kind of, aesthetic of old, rugged. You know me. I like my ancient aesthetic. I hate the modern machine shit. Still needs to dry more. Just gonna take a little longer. Essentially what I've done with the resin is like a lacquer on the blade here. Not the blade, but the handle. So let's see here. Get some better lighting. So you can see our pattern in our spine here. And then our leather seal, our copper jacket, which goes down to where that bulge ends. This is going to get cleaned up and get some ornation to it as well. We've got a seal here that's a twine wrap sealed with resin, and this is sealed with resin as well. So this, and the whole jacket has resin around holding it to the wood. So this construction has the tang run to here, well, about halfway through that wrap actually. But the wood is sealed, and it is a tight roached fit. Then we've got the pattern in the handle that runs the whole length of the handle, and it imitates the pattern in the blade, just with some extra dots for grip. Yeah, there's pins here that actually run that way through the tang. So there's one right here, and then there's another one right here, and they're brass pins with a copper jacket, so they're more likely to flex than to snap under immense pressure, if it needs to at all. But yeah, these pin up to the tang. And then we've got the wrap there at the midpoint. It goes down. We got another wrap at the bottom with a leather piece that we put on earlier, which is, the leather piece at the bottom is pinned in place as well. So there is that also. I'm just trying to pass some time real quick while I wait for this to harden up enough to touch it and to finish what I'm trying to do here. Because once that's all hardened, we're going to clean up these little stragglers that came out on our wraps, little pieces of fabric, or little pieces of twine and jute, I should say, jute and sassel. And then I'm going to try and take a small pin. So not a butt cap, but a piece of leather that's sealed. So I'll have to wait until it's dried enough to take it out to show you. But essentially, I took a piece of leather that's the same circumference as the base, epoxied and pinned that in with a copper pin, and then I did a twine wrap from that piece of leather up and sealed that whole thing. So it's an organic butt cap instead of a metallic butt cap, I guess. It's going to seal it, prevent water damage, prevent all kinds of damage, and it's more cushiony than a metal one. Because the metal ones will get tarnished, you'll have to worry about all that kind of stuff. Looks like Lila there's about to get a bath. My wife's going to bathe Lila. That's pretty damn funny. But yeah, the concept is pretty cool. I do it on a lot of my pole arms because making a butt cap, you need to solder stuff, you have to get precision grinding and all that kind of thing. Whereas with this, it's a more organic feel. It's a more, I guess, peasant class feel, which is what I go for with a lot of these. I'm trying to make stuff that would be more common, because the examples we see in museums aren't like, they aren't all of what all the weapons in history would look like. They're the prettiest, most prime examples that were preserved because of their beauty. Whereas there were probably thousands of swords with forge marks. There were thousands of weapons with forge markation and all this other stuff to it. CC salute. I look for pipe and fit it up. Yeah, pipe is good. Black iron pipe works good. You can do a end cap of black iron pipe, and you can grind off the markings and grind in with a Dremel, or forge in different markations on the exterior so it looks like an all-metal cap that you don't have to sit there and forge it or forge weld it or weld a cap to the back end, all kinds of stuff. Cuckoo salute. Cuckoo salute. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm not hip with the lingo of the modern age. So, I apologize if I don't understand. all these stragglers taken care of real quick. And use yard sale finds too. Yes, indeed. Free material on Facebook and Marketplace. Yes, indeed. I'm gonna jump off. All right. Good to see you, Caden. Glad you came back, brother. Use yard sale. Salute, mon cher. Hello, mon frère. So hello, my. Is that my friend? Moi assis soler Maroc. Merrick? Is your name Merrick? I don't speak French. I think that's French, isn't it? But yeah, we've got the gloss on there now. The wraps are starting to harden up well enough to start touching it a little bit. So we are getting some progress made, ladies and gentlemen. Just gotta wait for that handle to finish hardening up the rest of the way before we touch it too much. Oh, nice. Where do I live? Utah. Yeah, we're getting there. That gloss really makes that handle pop. This is American hickory, the wood. So it's burnt hickory. So it's a nice solid handle and it's not very heavy at all, which is awesome because it's a hardwood handle that's light and big. Please? I live in Utah, in America. Been there, you're in Virginia. Yeah. Virginia. I got some family in Virginia. I don't know what part. I got family all over the South and the East Coast. America, yes indeed. The haft is American hickory. So it's hickory that I burnt to give a burnt finish or a charred finish to. But it's hickory. So it's a hardwood handle. So the haft should hold up to all kinds of abuse because it is hardwood. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, buddy, you need to finish hardening up for me. That's what she said. At least I'm pretty sure that's what she said. That's what you want. Yes, indeed. Hardwood. Ain't nobody like no soft wood. You gotta get that hard wood. Make them ladies impressed. Give me just one moment. I will return very shortly. I'll be right back. I just gotta go check on something real quick. Alright, I have returned. What did I miss? It's getting there. It's definitely getting there. It is very bad weather quality today. What time is it? It's party time, bro. It's 5:15 p.m. Do I watch the OG Frenchie? I don't. I don't know what OG Frenchie is. I am not certain of what you speak, my good friend. I'm thinking about doing a little twine wrap here, too. In between that transition. Just enough to cover that pin. But leave myself some space here for the copper. That might be the play. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do a twine wrap right here. Not a big one. Just enough to cover that seam. That'll give me something to do while I wait. Wasn't planning on doing it, but you can always add more. Oh, cool. I'll have to check them out. So it's just past midnight for you? Like 15 past midnight for you? Is that what I'm seeing? It is quite windy today. I'll have to check him out. Is he called OG Frenchie, or is it like just Frenchie OG, or like what's his channel? And is he on YouTube or is he on TikTok? That way I can go hunt him down and check his stuff out. Give him a holler. Give me a second, I'll get the name real quick. Sweet. He makes electronic press out of an electronic log splitter. I've been thinking about doing that. Said it was easy to do. Yeah, I've honestly been thinking about doing that. A lance? No, a pole scythe or a war scythe, depending on what you want to call it. It's a slashy instead of a pokey. It's a weapon based off of some we find in history. The war scythe was created based off of the grass cutting scythe. My guess is they figured, hey, this tool cuts grass really well. Oh crap, there are bad guys coming. We need more weapons. Hey, let's grab that tool that cuts grass really well and modify it so it cuts people really well. Because that seems like a good play. And then all of the peasants brought all of their tools for gardening and for pleasantries and for recreational stuff, and the blacksmith modified them to make them fit, and then they were used for war. Because steel back then was so precious, none of it could go to waste, and in times of war, shortages of steel were very common, and good iron, as they called it. So, why waste something that's going to sit in a shed and let it sit there in the shed when you don't need it in the shed? You need it in your hands to use for warfare. And I'm pretty sure that's how the war scythe was born. Out of necessity and out of thinking that a tool can become a weapon. Because tools and weapons are not really that different. A tool is a weapon, and a weapon is a tool. And any tool can be a weapon. But not any weapon can be a tool. Unless your purpose is warfare. Then anything is a weapon. I'm a very big fan of the idea of anything that can be a weapon if you try hard enough. There it is. That's always a little bit uncomfortable when that happens. When it pops like that. But that'll tell you how hard I'm pulling to tighten these knots down. If I'm popping this string by pulling on it, you can imagine I'm pulling on it pretty hard. There we go. The wind, it sweeps and it flows. When will it stop? No man justly knows. The OG Frenchie is how it's spelled. Cool. Cool. Let me screenshot that. Bam. Screenshotted. That way I can save that for later. So I decided on doing a second twine wrap at the top, just to cover the edges of my leather here. You'll appreciate this, Michael. Is it Michael or Mikel? Or Michelle? Like, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, let me know. But yeah, I used the twine wrap to cover the edges of my leather here, just so you don't see the transition between socket and leather. You just have socket and then twine on either side of the socket. Mitchell? Or Mikael? It's hard to send pronunciation in text, isn't it? Okay, now we'll just resin bond that little sucker. And then by the time we're done with that, this should be ready to start doing some other stuff too. So that should be good. Mitchell, Michael, Mikhail? I do too. I do too. Where did I put that cup? Oh, there it is. Okay, mix up a little more resin. Wherever I put it, there it is. And you got it right. Okay, cool. Cool. Gloves on. I'm good with my hands, I suck at tech. I agree, sir. I agree. I'm good with my hands, but I suck at tech. I'm gonna use that. I'm going to use that in the future. Because that is a very good way of putting it. Now I'm just using my resin on the twine like I did on the other ones. And I'm kind of overlapping the resin between the twine and the leather. And that's going to form a nice solid resin seal in between the whole thing over the surface of the leather and the twine wrap, just adding that much more insurance that we will never have to worry about water getting inside of this. Because when it comes to weapons, water and oxygenation, or oxidization, I should say, are your two worst enemies. If it gets water in it, it can rot. If it oxidizes, it's rusting. Both of these things should be avoided with your weapons. And if your construction can do it, I believe the construction of the weapon should inhibit water and corrosion and decay in any way possible. I'm also going to run a seal, even though it's got resin all the way through it. I'm going to run some resin inside that overlap on my copper jacket here as well. Kind of wipe the excess off. visibly on the material. We just want it to fill the gaps. I should have taped my blade off before I started doing any of this, but I can always clean it up. I can always get the extra resin off of it later. It's not that big of a deal. Hello, hello. What kind of epoxy am I using? JB Weld Quickset. Yeah, the environment makes wood do all kinds of stuff. Yep, a Michelle? Hello, Michelle. Maybe it's because I was saying so many variations of the name they popped in. It's the Quickset 5-minute clear weld. It works great on wood, it works great on twine, works pretty good on metal too, surprisingly. As long as your surfaces are somewhat clean, it'll stick really, really well. Not the kind of thing that's just going to come right off with a razor knife, so to speak. Getting there. Still somewhat a little tacky, but that's okay. Okay. Now that we've got it tacky enough to where it'll start to work the way we want, I'm going to get set up to do the color beading inside of the wood. So in our wood handle here, we've got a pattern that runs down the length of it on both sides. Part of that pattern, excuse the wind, I can't control that, but part of that pattern is a dot matrix. Some of these dots are deeper than others. The way this works is these curves, every time the curve starts to reverse, there's a dot on both sides of the reversal of the curve. I'm going to take epoxy with some mica powder to color it, and I'm going to fill each one of these dots that are deeper with some resin that's colored. I'm then going to come back and try the same thing with these smaller dots, because what this is going to do is when it hardens, I'm going to have to leave it for a while on each side to let the beads harden. But when it hardens, it'll leave us with these little stud bead shapes. These little bead dots, right? That run all the way from the top to the bottom. And add some color and add some strike to the pattern. Make the pattern really pop. So that way the handle looks gem encrusted or something to that nature. With all this resin that's going to be on it. So I need to get set up for this real quick. Bear with me for a few minutes while I do that. Feel free to type in the chat. I will respond to you, obviously, as I'm doing this. Scoot it back just a hair so you guys can get a better look at the whole handle when I do this. That'll work for now, I guess. So, what kinds of color do we want Okay, I'm going to have you guys do a vote on something here in a sec once I figure this out. Coal, silver, terracotta, green walnut, lettuce. Should have seen that coming. Brown. Wood. Okay, so I'm going to need you guys' help with something. I'm going to have you guys do a quick poll for when I'm getting set up on this. The dots on that matrix, again, they run like there's that squiggling line that runs back and forth across this that zigzags like C shapes. At the reversal of each of those C shapes, there's a dot. Should I make that dot a brown, a crystal white, a fiery red, a rosewood, or terracotta? Drop in the comments and let me know. Should I go white, brown, fire red, rosewood, rust, or terracotta? Amazon. It's Rolio. I got the big pack. So, again, that's brown, white, terracotta, rosewood, or rust. I'm liking red, but I would test. Oh, I know what they look like. The mica powders pretty much look the colorations look exactly like the powder. So if I'm gonna imitate like emeralds, the best one would be this guy, the rosewood, because it gives me the truest red. If I wanted to emulate like diamonds or crystals, like quartz or something, I'd go with the white. The muddy brown is more of like a mixed gemstone color, and then the terracotta is more of like a golden orange powder. I do have other colors. I do have a gold, I also have a light green and a dark green as well. So I'm thinking probably rosewood would be best for this, and then do the small dots with the crystal white. So that way it'll be white and red. I think that'll give it the most life, would be the white and the rosewood. So I think that's what we'll go with. Do this just a little at a time. Okay. Now what am I going to use to just put the dots in? Maybe a nail? One sec, folks. Okay, we're just going to do this a little at a time so we can get it right. just mix that mica powder up with the resin. Get the resin and the harder mixed up real good. I think I'm actually going to make the lines all red as well. So the small dots will be white still, but the lines and the big dots will be red. I think that's what we're going to do, because that's going to give it quite a bit of life. Essentially what I'm doing is just a resin inlay. My resin's starting to harden up, so I need to hurry and get it in there before it hardens too much. That way I can wipe the excess off. This may have been a bad idea. I've never tried this before, so how was I to know that this would be catastrophically wrong?